we are at the stage of completing the long-term cycle, which started back in 1945. But the central banks cannot stop giving them money, because they got them hooked on the free liquidity, and if this flow stops, the system might collapse. And the world needs a different value system. We might face the United States collapse, as well as the entire global financial system crash. Glad to welcome you to the Coin Post. Never watch the interview with Ray Dalio, because it seems he's missed his calling as an outstanding politician. Saying so many confusing things is indeed a skill of a real politician. But I managed to do this. I was able to go over the 30-minute interview of Ray Dalio several times, and I'm ready to give it to you in the form of main points in 10 minutes. We'll take the current situation in the economy and the stage of the market cycle we're now at. We'll discuss how central banks took control of the global economy as they work to benefit the rich, and also how far they're willing to go in manual market management and what will come of it. In the end, I'll tell you what, according to Ray Dalio, one of the wealthiest people in the world, can threaten the dollar and entire America. I will even give you a specific country. Therefore, stay with me. I'm counting on your support in promoting this video with your thumbs up and shares. It's really fascinating and took a lot of effort to make. Let's dive in. There are different market cycles, and at the moment we are at the stage of completing the long-term cycle, which started back in 1945. After the end of World War II, the United States took the leading position in the world and set the dollar as the world reserve currency. Then, in 1971, the gold standard was finally abolished, and nothing prevented the United States from getting more prosperous by making more and more dollars. Banks were able to generate demand by giving new loans. However, this cannot go on forever and leads to zero or negative interest rates. So it was in 2008, and now in 2020 we are back. It was during the previous crisis that banks moved onto the next cycle stage. As they print new dollars and redeem assets, they generate demand for them, which leads to a price increase. Thus, we found ourselves in a weird situation, when assets price goes up, not according to the laws of capitalism because they are getting better, but because there is more and more money. Those who already have assets get wealthier even faster, and those who don't cannot buy them because prices are snowballing. As a result, we see a massive gap between the rich and poor, and according to Ray Dalio, now it's the most significant gap in the well-being of different groups of people since 1930. What happened at the beginning of 2020, I mean the coronavirus, was kind of a trigger that exposed all the current problems in the global economy. But even without it, we were already at the final stage of the cycle at which the current monetary system could no longer exist. According to Ray Dalio, instead of the market economy, we faced the fact that we moved to its political model. My understanding is that it's the same as changing from capitalism to socialism, when funds are distributed not according to the market, but political necessity. Getting back to the billionaire, he says that zero and negative rates do not encourage banks to earn money on loans, as they have to give less money than take, or maybe they don't even have to return the state funds received from central banks. Banks have no incentive to carry on economic activities making a profit, as it's enough to just invest in government securities. But the central banks cannot stop giving them money, because they got them hooked on the free liquidity, and if this flow stops, the system might collapse. It turns out that the markets are dependent on the political situation. Central banks are told how much and whom they should give money so that the economy does not collapse. They do this fearing that switching off the money printing machine might lead to some irreversible consequences, that is, to the collapse of the entire system. Answering the question of how far central banks are willing to go in managing the economy in the manual mode, since they felt their power, Ray Dalio mentioned the relationship between the market and financial economies, and the types of assets you should keep in such situation. Well, as I said at the beginning, he has a real gift for politics. According to one of the richest people in the world, there is a market economy, which is also a capital and financial economy, made up of, let's say, all the securities combined. So when the market economy is in constant creation of new money, it has an extremely insignificant effect on financial markets. Here I'd like to add that we've seen this since mid-March, when despite the problems in the real sector, financial markets have been growing thanks to the money of central banks. But the financial economy affects the real one a lot more, because we're used to assessing the overall picture by the value of the assets, which are now at a high level. At the same time, the central banks give money to companies so that they keep working, and give money to the poor so that they, in turn, keep buying. In this context, it's necessary to reconsider the traditional risk-reward ratio when choosing assets. After all, treasury securities, which are traditionally considered reliable, don't bring any profit. They are destroyed by the flow of new liquidity in the market. And so, Ray Dalio advises checking out gold as an asset that went through the entire history of money. And also stocks, because regardless of their price, you actually buy a business. And this is something real, something you can assess not only with money, which is getting more and more. For my part, if one chooses to buy shares at a time like this, then one should not expect the price increase, because today the markets are skyrocketing, and tomorrow the dollar tap might be closed, and it all comes down. You should rely on a business that will keep operating despite any crisis. Ray Dalio was asked to respond to how long the central banks might continue their crazy pumping with money. He believes that this process can continue for a long time, but it's not endless, because such monetary stimulation is not gonna be advantageous sooner or later. The billionaire says we're now repeating the times from 1930 to 1945. The point is, it all started with a considerable gap between the rich and poor, and a vast difference between the real and financial economies. To solve this problem, they began printing money, distributing it between everyone without exception, and this led to low interest rates. The monetary system actually stopped working, but no one paid attention to it because the war had begun. During the fights, there was no way to track economic feasibility. They were creating a new debt non-stop while it was needed. Then they had to replace the monetary system and completely severed the link between the dollar and gold. And later, to completely change the world in 1971, the dollar actually came in place of the gold, which is why the US is still the largest world economy and the most influential country. The dollar is the main advantage of the United States, but its debt is continuously growing. As a result, this monetary system has totally played out and should be replaced. As soon as they realize that printing new money no longer works and the world needs a different value system, we might face the United States collapse, as well as the entire global financial system crash. This could happen because of an alternative monetary system, for example the one based on stocks or gold. But there is also the chance that this will be the dawn of some new currency, which will simply replace the dollar. And in the understanding of Ray Dalio, China has good chances to succeed. Why China? We'll talk about it in a sec, because I have to say thank you for supporting the video and inviting everyone to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. You are the best audience, and every new subscriber motivates me to make fresh videos. When asked whether China should be considered an enemy or, more precisely, the rival for the United States, Ray Dalio explains it like this. If a country takes a leading position in the world, sooner or later, there will be someone who will try to challenge this title. And this is not so much a confrontation as a chess duel. You're not gonna call someone an enemy just because they are on the other side of the board, right? So Dalio suggests taking them as another player in the international arena that can offer the world their own value system. According to the billionaire, China has enormous potential at the economic, political, and national levels. He also highly appreciates their national cohesion and education level. According to Ray, the US position is pretty strong, and they should not give in to anyone in the struggle for world leadership. But a great deal is gonna depend on what steps both countries take, because the game is on. In light of the above, you're taking a new look at the trade wars between the US and China. And if America is unlikely to aggravate the conflict before the autumn elections, then the situation may worsen again. I saw in the comments that some of our viewers point out China's substantial foreign exchange reserves and its leading position in the US debt. Well, it's like a gun hanging on the wall that can also fire. Others say that now China might be crushed by sanctions and there will be nothing left of it, and in general the Celestial Empire will get back to the times it was a poor agricultural country. Well, I think it's time to reopen our discussion below the video. Just respect each other, please. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. It's the Coin Post channel. Subscribe and get enlightened.